So what we've done, we've taken the liberty to populate this instance with some sample content. We've got some compliance controls, as you can see on your dashboard. We've actually created some risks. We've created some assets, business interests, and some assessment data for you to view. On your dashboard, you have the ability to drill in to each one of these areas and actually take a sneak peek. I'm just going to drill into one because I know you're anxious to drill on to the things that you're most interested in, but I've chosen a risk. And this risk, you're seeing the risk severity, the mitigation, which is 16%. You can see a project that is in progress. And as I drill down, you can see the business impacts. As I continue to scroll, you can see your risk treatment plan, and you can see that the controls are actually, you can define the function that they play as it relates to the NIST CSF framework or any framework that you choose, as well as the maturity that takes into account control effectiveness. What I also want to show you is that you can actually drill into a business interest that's being impacted by a risk and view the actual assets that are exposing you to the risks. And you can drill down even further into the specific controls that are being measured. Right from the dashboard, this button here is where you can take action. And as you can see, you've got 3 options. You can add to an assessment. You can add to a project. If you select one control, then you have the ability to request an exception. Wherever you see this filter button, it allows you to parse through the information very quickly so that you're able to view just what you want to see. As we move around and navigate the dashboard, I just want to point out a couple more areas, and then I'm going to move into more of the details on our sample content. I've set up an organizational KPI related to the NIST CSF tiers, where you have visibility over the controls and the performance of each one of your business interests. Wherever you see blue, you have the ability to actually drill in more deeply. Like I can move from here to the control, to the reference, right? Navigating through the software is very, very simple. And what we really attempted to achieve is to allow you to take immediate action no matter where you were in the application. One other drill down that I wanted to show you is a project where you can see that on this summary, the project is 7% complete. It's going to cost $50,000, and its impact on mitigating risk, its impact on assets or subjects, resource types, as well as compliance. And then as I continue to scroll down, I can see these changes. And what these are actually tickets that have been sent to an ITSM platform. We have not enabled the integration to the ITSM platform with this free trial download, but if you move to a proof of concept, we're happy to provide you that full functionality. So as I continue, I'm just going to scroll across and I'm going to dive into risks. You have the ability to add a group and add a risk. We've provided you with samples. This is the same one that I drilled into on the dashboard, but I wanted to show you, the different areas that a risk owner can view as they are determining what action they want to take related to risk. So this first tab shows you the business impacts. And all of these different areas that are impacted, these are called business interests. And I'm going to show you where those are created within the platform. But I do want you to take notice of the BIA score, which is definitely rolling up into the overall risk severity score. What you can also see are the assets, and in this case it's just one, that is exposed to the risk and drill directly into those mitigating controls. The next area is risk treatment. And this is where you are going to be able to select from, pardon me, either existing controls by simply drilling into them and checking them. But what you can also do is add a new control on the fly. If you do add a control on the fly, you have the ability to actually associate it and attach it to any particular assets that are exposed to the risk. And it'll automatically be part of your risk treatment plan. An example of this could be that there is a different control or a different way that you would treat your vendors versus your employees. You could actually create a quick control on the fly and associate one to your subjects that are employees and one to subjects that are assets. What you can see here as well is your risk severity and what it looks like after treatment. As you start to build your risk treatment plan and you start to move these levers, you're going to start to see that number change. The Subjects tab actually gives you almost like an asset list of those subjects that are exposed to the particular risk, and then you have visibility over projects that are associated with mitigating the risk. I'm going to point out just one more and go right to the projects so that you can actually see that you can have multiple projects, an endless amount of projects that are associated with a risk, and then this will give you almost like a mini cost-benefit analysis. If there was an exception that was granted associated with this risk, it would show up in this tab. So as we move along, I'm going to now talk more in depth on the way that the system works and the interaction between that multi-tier hierarchy that you're starting to see develop. The first area are the controls. And you see we have a mix between authoritative controls and just some sampling of controls. Here's one that's related to an internal policy for access control. You can see the details around the control, and if I want to edit it, I just push this button and I have full access to change anything within this control. As I move through, I can actually modify the responses that I'd like to see to support the data collection process, and I can determine whether the control is optional, required, or preferred. I'm going to start at the top of the food chain, which are the business interests. And if you remember before, when I was talking about risks, this is where you start to talk about the criticality. I'm going to dive into the business interest group called organizational unit, and this is a group of departments. As I select this one, which is the GMI, I want to make mention that all of these business interests and assets actually were imported directly into this instance from an ITSM platform. As I view the summary screen, you can see that the audit information, they're not doing extremely well. And in order to determine the BIA, the business owner can create a BIA survey and just step through it. You have the ability to customize this survey and associate it with the different business interest types. So it could be a major system, could be a department, could be something related to your supply chain, any type of thing that you want to assign criticality, you would create a business interest. And you have the ability to then determine and measure the impact of it through taking that survey. You also have the ability to set KPIs for that department here. And this KPI is not an organizational-wide KPI. This is meant for this business interest itself. As I move along, you can actually see all of the subjects, and that's what we call assets. They can be employees, vendors, or IT assets that are leveraged by this particular department to perform its function. You can also see the risks that this business interest is exposed to, and you have the same drill down capability from this vantage point to see the mitigating controls. If there are projects that are associated with mitigating the risk and that are adding value to this business interest, you will see them here. And the attribute that has been associated with this business interest is that there's private investment data. Any subject that is associated with this business interest, this attribute will flow down, and it will determine whether a risk is in scope or compliance controls. So if one of these attributes were cardholder data, you would now see PCI controls coming into scope. You also have the ability to view the BIA results in this last tab. So as we continue to move through the system, right, we're going to go down to the next layer. We've got a few groups in here that consist of computers, chemicals, employees, vendors, and they are all populated. Some of them are very empty, and that's to give you a chance to start working with them. I am going to choose an actual business interest or subject, and I want to point out the risk profile attributes. These risk profile attributes also have been imported by the ITSM platform. You have the ability to associate them yourself. You can upload through a spreadsheet, or you can take advantage of one of the many integrations and automatically populate this information. So as I look at this particular server, right, I can see the business interests that are leveraging it. I can see the controls that are in scope. I can also see the scores. I can see the risks, and right now, there aren't any. The reason why I point this one out is because as I move to this other asset and I look at the operating system, because of this attribute here, this risk is now in scope. And you can see the mitigating control. If I want to, right from this area in the system, I have the ability to add this to any of the assessments that exist, or I can create a new assessment. What I can also do is add these controls to a project, as well as request an exception. If I do request an exception, it will go through a queue where you can see the things that you need to approve. You can see the ones that have expired, and any ones that are with any of these categories. Because you're an administrator, you have full visibility. We have the ability to set role-based granular access where the individuals who are requesting exceptions may not have any visibility over the approval process, but that's up to you. So we're going to move into an assessment. You can see we've got a sample in here as well. I am going to choose this one for viewing. You can see that a database server is in scope. As I look at the details tab, I can actually see the controls that are in scope. If there were any surveys, which there aren't, I would see them here. As I move back to this screen, I have the ability to select all. create a survey and assign it. What I also have the ability to do is enter the effectiveness of an answer and add my notes. What I can also do is I can enter the score directly into this console. This is extremely helpful if you're sitting in a conference room asking people questions. Rather than scrolling through a survey, you can simply enter the scores. Once you are happy with an assessment and the answers, you have the ability to commit the scores. Once you commit those scores, that's when the update happens, and you will see the security posture index change and everything within the system start to change as it relates to a particular asset. Now, I was showing you how to create a survey. If you would like to set up a user within your community, I want to show you how to do that so that you can have some fun and send some surveys. The administrative area in the settings is all within the settings section of the tool. You have the ability to set up users by just pushing this button, Add User. Go ahead and type the username, the email, and the data. As you hit next, you're then going to have the opportunity to choose what group they have access to. And we have some sample groups that we've set up. You are an administrator. You can decide that you want to distribute some of the people that you want to work with over your 7 days to any of these groups. Another area that I just wanted to show you while we're in the setting tab would be the attributes. These are things that would determine whether controls are in scope or whether risk is in scope. You can choose to create some on the fly. You can also create resource types. I want you to enjoy your time with LRM. So I'm going to go to one last section within the system, and I think that you'll be well equipped to participate in your free trial for 7 days, and that is the Projects tab. We've got, again, some more sample data, and I'm just going to pick a project. You have the ability to edit these that are already in existence or create your own. You can set the status of the project, whether it's evaluation, proposed, in progress. You can set the due date, the cost, the hours, as well as the milestones. What you can also do is add attachments, because what you may want to do is associate vendor quotes or a detailed project plan that fits your organizational requirements. What you can immediately see once you create a project is the impact that it will have on risk, subjects, which are your assets, and compliance. You can view the scores. If there are scores associated with risks, you'll see that those are isolated. Change requests are essentially those things where we've created tickets. Normally, one. So excuse that brief pause. I am going to continue. Where we are is in the change request area within the project. And as you can see, these are changes that, because we don't have the ITSM integration set up in your free trial version, you have the ability with our mini change management system to actually mark things complete, add notes, and actually work through the workflow process of a project. If you were integrated with the ITSM platform, this would essentially create a ticket that would get pushed to that platform. And then as things take place and as your IT team starts to execute against your request, those things are automatically updated within the system, and you can see their impact on your overall risk. So we're going to just go back to the dashboard as I say farewell, and I thank you